Ars Libri is an everyman's journey, book by book, through Western literature. We read, retell, and reclaim our rich heritage. Be sure to subscribe to the show at arslibri.substack.com. The Story of Roland. It's written by James Baldwin. It was published in 1883. We have a book here. I think this one was produced. What's it called when it's published? When they publish a book?
Printed?
Printed. It was printed in 1930, I think, or 1920. And it's in color. The whole thing is color pictures. It's beautiful. Actually, this was 1911, the one we have. 1911 by Charles Scribner's Sons. You should definitely get this edition, except they make them new. I just wanted to get this old one. I love old books, but it's totally falling apart. It's a big book. This has got to be 10 by 7 and over an inch thick. These beautiful colored drawings by Peter Hurd, H-U-R-D. This book is basically just like Ludovico Ariosto's Orlando Furioso from the 1500s. It's the story of Roland. Dorothy Sayers translated that story. People know today the Song of Roland. It's basically this epic story about Roland and his last battle and how he blew his horn at the last to signal for help. He fought for France. It's a very nationalistic poem, even though it was written long, long ago. This story is a blend of basically all of the tales surrounding Roland. And not just Roland, but all of the characters in that epic world. So Rinaldo, Alfonso, Sacripante, Angelica, everyone, if you have heard the episode we did on Ludovico Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, written in Italian in the 1500s, this book is essentially that book, but more story. However, it has less of some of the adult content from that one.
It's amazing to me how all of these stories in Europe seem to blend into one another. Like, is the story French or is it Italian? It's like they're all brothers in a way.
And this is the amazing thing. This story and Ludovico Ariosto's story from the 1500s and James Baldwin's tale from the early or the late 1800s, so over 300 years apart, both of them are extremely European in the sense of they're self-consciously blending all of the Europeans together in an effort to fight outsiders from coming in, explicitly doing that. However, at the same time, there is really no hint of modern nationalistic or racist overtones. If the Muslim is a good fighter, he's worthy of honor. If the Christian is not a good fighter, he's a coward, he's worthy of shame. However, at the same time, they bound themselves together in oaths, mutual oaths to serve King Charlemagne, who's king of all Christendom, all the Europeans, all of the nations and peoples, and they all joined together to fight the foreigners from Africa, from the Muslim areas, from the East, and so on and so forth. So you have definitely this all joining together theme where, yes, it's Italian, yes, it's French, yes, it's English, yes, there's Scots, and yes, there's Germans, and everybody. There are people from India, there are people from North Africa, from Spain, from not just Spain, but different parts of Spain, all of the different areas of France, and from Italy. The Pope is there. Actually, the story of this, Roland, starts when he's a child, and he lives in the village, I forgot the name, but he and his friend are watching the procession of Charlemagne towards Rome. And they come and stop in his village. And this book, The Story of Roland by James Baldwin, it is very much illustrative and descriptive in the scenes. They describe the color of everybody's armor and the banners, and it just goes on and on and on. Really rich displays. It's very Victorian in that sense of, but there's also a lot of emphasis on the same virtues from this era of courage, honor, duty, deference, loyalty. Roland at the beginning and his friend, They swear oaths to one another to always be true and faithful to each other. These are 12-year-old boys. And they're swearing these hearty oaths to each other to always be loyal and true and to never turn against each other and always have each other's backs and fight with and for and on behalf of each other. And they swear it. And it binds them for the rest of their lives, this oath, because they want to be knights one day. They see this and they think it inspires them to want to be courageous and do great deeds. This book, I would definitely recommend 10 out of 10, give to young boys. Give it to young boys. If you're looking for a book that you want young boys to read a book and it inspires them to nobility, to deeds of strength and honor and doing good and righting wrongs and finding out problems in the world, bringing justice to bear, protecting the weak, protecting women, making hearty friends and going on adventures. This is the book. This is absolutely the book, 100%. In fact, I don't know if I've ever read a better book for boys than this one. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. I've read a lot of books. This one, everything is done well. It's done right. When there are wrongs, they're righted or they're confessed or they're shamed. There are people who swear oaths and go back on their oaths and they are pursued for it and they come to repent of it. Each chapter is called an adventure. So there's adventure 1, adventure 2. I read this book to our girls. They loved it. They loved every bit of it because it was so exciting and wild. So much stuff happens, just like in Ludovico Ariosto's book, except that one is written for adults and sometimes it's a little bit crazy even for adults. This one has all that adventure and excitement from the earlier version, but it has more. It starts you off when he's a young boy and then it goes into his manhood. It also has love and romance, but it's not overdone at all like in Ludovico Ariosto's, which, to be fair, was an Italian book also. This guy writing, Baldwin, he's either English or he's American, I don't remember which, but he's going to tone that down a bit. He said at the beginning of the book, Baldwin did, that he is basically weaving together all of the prior tales surrounding Roland, and he's also adding a little bit of his own and changing things. And he says, permit me to do this because great artists do this with their paintings. And they do this with music and things like this. And I'm knowingly doing it, but I'm not doing injustice to the original story. I'm adding things that are a little more particular to our time so people understand a little better. But it's entirely, you feel like it's entirely set in the 800s. The way they talk to each other, the way each boy treats his mother, it's just really, 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 I don't feel like it's pedantic or tutelary or sort of Mr. Rogers at the end of the show. He sits there and talks to you like, what did we learn today, children? It's not like that. The kids, the boys won't read this and think, oh, here I'm going to get lectured to by some feminist longhouse kind of thing. I don't want to, they don't talk like that, I guess, but they just feel like this is not like going to school, is it, Mom? I don't have to read this and you got to pay me to read it. No, they're going to want to read this. They're going to want to read this and then go outside and fight evil. They really are. This story is really amazing. They become knights. And the way they become knights, from boys to knighthood, is they join as pages and squires. Roland has to prove that his mom is actually Charlemagne's sister. And he does. He actually runs in, and I won't tell the whole story. But he proves it, and he proves it in a bold way in front of Charlemagne. He walks in and grabs Charlemagne's cup and takes a drink of it, and he's 12 or 14 or something. And Charlemagne, the knights all standing around while he's feasting, the knights all spring to action, and Charlemagne says, whoa, 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 I like the boldness of this young boy. Tell us your name, young man. You know, it's that kind of world where boldness wins the day. But then you have to be courteous and yet have a stability of mind and presence, not to cower and quiver before King Charlemagne. And I mentioned already, but one great thing about this book is it describes things really sort of, there's a luster to everything. The trees, the apples, the weather, the woman's hair, the guy's sword. It's like playing a video game in some ways. The swords have special powers. The shields have special powers. It is. You go on an adventure and who knows what's going to happen if you turn down this road, wanderer, and you do. And oh no, there's a knight waiting for you and you must joust him. every turn there's something like that. Every adventure, it leaves you, it's like, you know how a lot of modern books will leave you with cliffhangers at the end of a chapter?
Yeah.
And the chapter is not actually that exciting, but the cliffhanger at the end is like, what happens next? I don't know. And then it's just a cheap way of getting you to read more. This book wants you to read more. It gets you to read more without being cheap like that. First of all, they call the chapters adventures, and they really are adventures. How Roland won a sword, how this guy became a knight, how this other guy lost a kingdom. And it goes on and on and on to describe these things. I've also found that in some ways how Ludovico Ariosto, he would draw out some portions of his story. So for instance, Bradamante was in love, I think with Ronaldo or somebody, I'm forgetting the names, but this woman was in love with a man, and he, her, and she was a great knight, even though nobody knew it was a she. But she had to go find him. Well, the finding of him in Ludovico Ariosto, it just goes on and on and on, her journey through this town and this town. James Baldwin kind of skips some of that stuff and gets to the meat of the subject, but you still feel like it's a substantial story. He's not missing anything. He includes some of the pagan elements also. So there's a nymph or a prophetess or a witch or a wizard. There's Merlin's grave and tomb and his fount.
That's so fascinating about books of this era. Like I'm thinking Beowulf. Similar themes of pagan and Christian woven in together. Mm-hmm. That makes it a fascinating story.
And nobody has a problem with that stuff back then. Mm-hmm. They know that Christ is the true king, that the true God, he is God. And the Muslim God, this is false religion. And they also know that Merlin was from this pagan, druid, whatever background. And yet, it's interesting that these pagans are made to serve God. And they know it. So the nymphs come along and prophesy. Like Bradamante has to go underground to the tomb of Merlin, where a nymph prophesies to her of her future greatness and glory. But unlike Ludovico Ariosto, who was writing for the house of Ippolito d'Este in Italy, he was basically trying to prop up that house and say, you're going to be so great. Look, and he parades all these great ancestors to come, his posterity to come for Bradamante. He doesn't do that with, James Baldwin doesn't do that. Because the story is about Roland. It's actually about Roland. So anyway, I was mentioning how they became knights. It's pretty cool. They were squires in the army of Charlemagne under various great lords of the houses and things, and of different lands and dukes and things. And they go fight the pagans, the Muslims down in Rome, because the Pope is saying, please come quickly. They're fighting and they're laying waste to the town. So they all start marching down with all this great pageantry, and the towns are coming out cheering them, and it's just great banners and knights, and it explains how great the knights were, all of them. Just a lot of high stuff, like men of legend and prowess and heroes of old. And you're thinking, wow, this is so great. And they go down and they get routed by the Muslims. Well, Roland is like a squire back there with the baggage. He tells his friend, I'm forgetting the name, I think it's Osier or something. He tells his friend, we can't sit here and do nothing. And he gives this rousing speech. It's right in line with this courageous, spirit, thumatic, kind of Greek heroic nature of the story.
A squire, so he would be like teenager?
Yeah, they're teenagers.
Okay.
And they basically go with some weapons down into the battle and they fight. And they save a few guys and so on and so forth. Well, as they do this, and they recover the standard of Charlemagne, and they help to rout and free, they free some of their guys and rout the enemy. Well, because of that, they get a battlefield knighting. Like right then and there, wow. They think, some guys say, these young boys should be knighted for their deeds today. They've proven themselves. They've won their spurs. So they weren't knighted because they were of a highborn status or whatever. You have to be highborn to be knighted, by the way. But that's not at all. That's not all. You have to prove yourself. And they do in real battle. And Charlemagne says in that scene, they say, oh, let's knight them. Let's go back and knight them later. And he says, no. They've performed it on the battlefield. They'll be knighted on the battlefield. It's just, there's good stuff like that in the book. And there's also the Archbishop, oh, I'm forgetting his name, Turpin or something like that. He's sort of like Friar Tuck in the sense that he's a lusty, hardy kind of friar. You know, he's not a friar though, he's an archbishop, but he's an archbishop who will take up the sword. And he's always there. He's always at the front of the battle with the other guys, rallying people and not just, come on, fight for God. He's actually also fighting for God. He's doing the fighting. I like that kind of priest. That's my kind of priest. This guy He can eat with the guys, he can fight with the guys, but then he leads them in prayer afterwards. And he had to be there to read them their vows, their nightly vows. And so they take the vows and they say, do you know how serious the vows are? And they recount, like, here's what you're going to do. You're sworn to defend the weak always, even to death, to always uphold your word. If you give your word to something, you follow. If you pursue an adventure, you never turn aside from it until you have died or achieved it. Never. So this is serious stuff to be a knight. And throughout the story, they actually have to test their vows. Their vows test them. Let me put it that way. He goes, for instance, Roland, later on, he has the sword called Durandal, which again, is like a video game. You're reading a video game. This is so amazing before video games. Basically, all video games, not all, a lot of the fighter sort of, I don't know what they call it, RPG video games or something, they are based on this kind of stuff. You could take this book and put it in code and turn it into a video game. He has Durandal, the sword. Durandal was Hector's sword of Troy. His armor is still floating around. People are trying to quest after it. Seriously. There's the shield, the breastplate, the helmet, and people go and find this stuff, and they go on quests for it, and they have to go to magical kingdoms that are invisible and find some potion to allow them to see it. But then it vanishes when they talk to an old, like you can't talk in it, but you talk to an old guy and the whole thing vanishes. It's an adventurous story, really. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. When I'm reading it to the kids, they're like, another adventure. And these are girls. It's written for boys.
Yeah.
But these are girls who wanted me to keep reading and reading and reading.
That kind of superstition is fun, where it's like, you have to do this, but if you didn't throw the salt over your shoulder, it's not going to work.
It was just like that.
And you have to stir it with a wooden spoon. If you use metal, it's not going to work.
Yes. He went to this invisible kingdom or something that he was able to get through a gate by tricking a dragon somehow. I don't know. He got in and he came to a fountain in which fairies were playing. And there was some hint that he got that he was supposed to capture the fairies, but they were so beautiful that he didn't want to capture them. And because of that, he lost the whole quest. The whole quest. It's gone. Yeah. Just because of that. Because he chose wrongly in this arbitrary choice, and the whole thing vanished, and Queen Morgana Le Fay, who's still alive because she's a witch or a fairy or something, she comes along and says, you should have chosen this, and now you're not going to achieve it, et cetera, et cetera. And someone who's better than you now has it, and I'm sending you back. And it all vanishes, and he realizes he's suddenly back halfway between where he thought he was and where he needs to be now. He got reset back, almost like in a video game.
Like in a video,
where you get respawned or whatever back at your last waypoint.
Wow.
That's what happens to him. It really happens. There's a hippogriff in the story. It's not like Pegasus. It's like a horse, but it has feathers over its body. Its face is different and it has wings. It's not a griffin either. It's a hippogriff. So a horse griffin. So I don't know. They fly around in this thing. There's a castle made of all steel, and it's enchanted by a wizard. And he's actually not bad. He's trying to just save his grandson from prophesied doom. It's on a high cliff. They go to the Pyrenees. They fight in the Pyrenees they describe the journey over the Pyrenees mountains, the mountains between Spain and France. There's an adventure where they go over that. The description of going up that mountain and looking back and down and seeing all of France, and going over and seeing all of Spain, and the cliff between the two, and going down, and the description of the country on each side. It's just glorious stuff. I've never been to the Pyrenees, but I've been to Mont Blanc and Zermatt and all that, the mountains between France and Italy. And I've gone over them and between them in Switzerland and things. And just having that in my mind and reading this is just thrilling. To basically go over the mountain and go over the crest and see all of Italy laid out before you. And the only reason you can't see any further is because it just becomes misty at some point. And then there's a sea over there at some distance. And is that the Mediterranean or is it the Adriatic? Like, which side of Italy am I looking at? How tall are these mountains? I don't know. It's so awesome. That's what happens to them. They fight. Roland's last battle is in those mountains, the Pyrenees. I won't describe it, but it is La Chanson de Roland, the Song of Roland, the last song. And he basically, because of his knightly vows, he takes this position. He's asked to do it. It was trickery. it was treachery that led to his demise. I think it was Ganelon, a man named Ganelon. He was always at the council meetings with Charlemagne, but the book, from the beginning all the way to the end, he was tricky, he was sly, he had a look to him, he had a curl to his lip, all of these sorts of descriptions. So you can see evil coming from the beginning. And he actually goes over to the Muslim side and deals with them. And he hates Roland because Roland is the favorite nephew of Charlemagne, and he is the star player, and he is the doughtiest knight, and the most honorable, and the bravest, and the strongest, and the most Christian and righteous, and so on. And he betrays and tricks. But Roland fights to the end like a man. And I think it was Osier maybe, or somebody who was near him said, "Blow your horn. The rest of the caravan will hear us and turn." And he said, "I'll never blow my horn for a Muslim. Like, it would shame my ancestors to blow a horn to say that I needed help. I'd rather die than blow my horn." So this is interesting that to blow a horn, I never knew this. I thought, yeah, of course you blow your horn. You need help. But it was a point of honor and manliness that I will never blow a horn for a pagan. Never. And of course, I won't tell the end, but it's a good end. It's an end too where you get a little teary, but it's not boo-hooish, and it doesn't lean on emotion and sentiment. It's more of a manly, hearty, good end that was had. You're like, yes, this is good. Even though it's bad, it's still good in the way that it happened. If it has to happen. You know what I mean? You don't want it to happen, but he goes down from start to finish, from the beginning of the book to the end. Roland is a man. I mean, you name your son after Roland or something. After you read this, you think, this is a man. This is a great man. Amazing deeds that he did. But it wasn't just amazing. It was the principle and nobility and constancy in his mind, the fortitude. He took his oaths seriously. He treated his friends with honor and respect. You know what I mean? He had this woman that he was betrothed to, and for a time, because of some spells and things like this, he forgot her, and then he repented of it because it was wrong of him to be wayward. And he didn't do any wicked deeds, okay? Again, Ludovico Ariosto's book, that's wild. That's a wild book. This one, give it to kids of any ages. I didn't have to gloss anything in this book reading it to my children.
You know, I think I would prefer the kid version.
Yeah, you can read this book. I will say this. The Ludovico Ariosto one, it is wild. It's difficult to follow, and at some point you feel like you're being taken on a roundabout tour by a drunk tour guide. Okay? It's like you're being taken through a circus through a tour guide who it's just crazy. It's fun. It's a great book. It's a historic book. You should probably read some of it at least. This one, you read and you understand and know what's going on. The only complaint I have about this book is that he does gloss things that I think sometimes you just can't gloss it. So, Orlando Furioso, that's the name of the original tale. Orlando's fury, the fury of Orlando. Why is he angry? Because he loves Angelica, and Angelica falls in love with Medoro or some other guy, who is a Muslim, by the way. Falls in love with him, and they go off. He's wounded. By the way, Medoro was wounded in battle trying to save his prince. Not his prince was already dead, but he was trying to save his body and give it a proper burial. So you sort of have this, the same thing that happened in the Aeneid, where two men, I'm forgetting their name, they go out at night and they're friends, and they go on a sort of sortie, is what it's called, a sortie at night, but they end up meeting a deadly end. And it just shows the valor of these men. Well, this book also shows the valor of Muslims. This is what I think is the old word use of culture. This is a book you read and you can actually appreciate Muslims. Not agree with them at all, and not want your country to be Muslim or something, but you have an appreciation for other peoples and other cultures. You really do. There are honorable men. There are warriors who fight just as valiantly, and that's what happens in this book. These two guys go out and try to get their prince. I think his name was Dardanelle or something like that. He's like the greatest prince among the Muslims, and he was killed. And these two guys, one of them especially tries to go out and recover the body of their prince because it's a shame that he's not buried. And as they do this, they are found. They're both mortally wounded, or they're thought so, but then Angelica comes upon one of them. In both stories, Ludovico Ariosto's and James Baldwin's story, this happens. Angelica is this beautiful princess of Cathay, and she came initially to spy out Charlemagne's army with her brother. And they gave a challenge to the whole of Charlemagne's army, and of course they loved it. Like, of course we'll hear your challenge, young princess. Yes, what is it? And they said, come and do a tourney with my brother, and anybody who unseats him can win me as a bride. And of course, she's enchanted, beautiful. And all the men just jump to, even Roland, who is betrothed, jumps to it. Of course, this is where it goes wrong a little bit, but she's enchanted. We'll forgive him because it's an enchantment. Mm-hmm. Anyway, her brother has a magic lance that can never break. He has a magic shield that always turns any blow to it. And she has a magic ring that lets her turn invisible and fly away real quick. So even if her brother loses, it's all a ruse. Well, anyway, as the story goes on, she's fleeing now because the whole thing flopped. The whole scene there flopped. She finds Medoro and takes him and uses her enchantments to heal him. And as they're going through the healing process, they fall in love, etc., and get married. Now, Roland he's out questing. He's got to go find people. It's all these quests, these wonderful quests, these adventures, just romping through the woods, through the countryside, and just discovering interesting stuff. Along the way, he comes to a place where Medoro and Angelica had been betrothed, and they wrote their names and carved their names in love on trees and rocks and stuff. And he sees this. Well, in Ludovico Ariosto's tale, he goes mad. Quite rightly. He becomes furious. And like Achilles, he loses his mind, so to speak, and becomes furious. Well, he begins rampaging the countryside. Unlike Achilles, he just goes on a rampage. And he can't be stopped for a long time until he's brought to his senses. But in James Baldwin's tale, he does become angry. But James Baldwin actually says, this is my criticism, James Baldwin actually says, some tales say he went mad for love of Angelica, but we know that can't be right because he was betrothed to this other girl, Alda or something like that. And so he must have had just a touch of the sun. That's what made him go crazy. And I'm like, no, that's not what. And then the craziness that happens. Like he doffs off his armor. He throws his sword away. Durandal, he throws it away. All of these things have extreme precious value and special virtues that give the person greater strength or endurance. So you know what I mean? It's just like a video game. He throws it all away and goes mad and claws out, his fingernails and eats grass. I mean, he's fighting people and he's babbling he goes mad. He's enraged. He's killing sheep. He just slaughters flocks of sheep and runs away. Of course, the book describes it well, right? But that's what he's doing. And I'm thinking, because of a touch of the sun, because he had too much sun, the greatest, doughtiest warrior in all of Charlemagne's army had too much sun. Come on, James. Just say that he was in love with Angelica and let it be. All right?
Or maybe just extend the enchantment bit or something.
Yeah, the enchantment. Maybe he was enchanted to be mad, but he went mad.
Yeah.
And I think James Baldwin, basically the story was, you have different stories of Roland. You have the Song of Roland, the end, where he's fighting for Charlemagne, and it's like this French nationalistic epic. Before nationalism, by the way, it was French nationalism before nationalism. People say nationalism arose in the 1800s. False. The Song of Roland. And it's for France, and we'll show them how Frenchmen live and die and how we fight. I love France, all of France. That's one. The other one is his rage. And there's also one before that called Innamorato, Roland in Love. And Orlando Innamorato is what it's called. So Roland in Love, Roland enraged, Roland's Song. Those are the three main tales. This tale, I really like this tale by James Baldwin because it shows Roland's courage and honor and manliness. That's what it shows. And the stories of everyone around him too, not just him. Some adventures not even about him. However, he skimps on the rage part. And I think that he shouldn't have. He skimps on the rage part. He really went in a rage because he was in love with Angelica. And he really loved Angelica, maybe because of the enchantment of Merlin's well or something like that. Merlin has a well, it makes you fall in love. And there's a well opposite that makes you hate someone.
Yeah, to me, that's more legitimate. Blaming it on the enchantment.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, because the love, that's where it came from, was an enchantment.
Right.
So let's apply the rage to that as well.
The rage came from the enchantment. But the enchantment didn't just wear off. And in the end, though, in this book, he comes to his right mind. People go and find him. They convince him, etc., and they help to bring him back. So it's good. It works. It doesn't ruin the story. But I am just sort of an originalist, I guess. And I'm thinking, but also the logic of it. He had a touch of the sun. Come on. Tell me that he ate a weird mushroom or something and it just made him go crazy. Or like, make it make sense, James Baldwin, please. I was looking up reviews of this. I want to read something here, which I think is really good. Why it matters today. Why the story matters today. Modern audiences might find the black and white morality of the 1880s a bit dated. However, the book remains a masterclass in myth-making. Let me just stop here. For some reason today, everybody likes messy morality. Things aren't black and white. They're not clear. In the Bible, they're clear. That's how the Bible presents morality. There's good and evil. There are angels and demons. There's God and everyone who's not on God's side. There's heaven and hell. You're either with me or you're against me. Jesus said that. That is morality. Now, we fall short of that, but that doesn't mean falling short of that is okay. And we can just live here in this messy norm, falling short of it. We have all these euphemisms today. Mm-hmm. We messed up. Oops. Mm-hmm. Or whatever. We have to look at things as they really are. And this world does that. The world before us, people have shown this, by the way, that the colors that we use to paint our houses, paint our cars, even the way we dress, it's increasingly less colorful than it was in the past. This is interesting to me. I would say this also, that the way that truth, morality, virtue, sin, evil, justice is portrayed in the past, manhood and womanhood, it's more colorful than today, where it's just 50 shades of gray. We call it gray today, or whatever. We wear gray. A Man in the Gray Flannel Suit was a famous book in the 1950s. It's just gray. It's not colorful. When you read this book, you are getting keen statements, bold, clear, defined terms. These guys are swearing oaths to each other when they're teenagers, young teenagers, whereas today, boys are silly and they mess up and nothing's serious. No, it is serious and hard and hearty, whole. It's black and white, and because of that, you feel like you're eating a full meal, but you've only been given baby food your whole life. And so it's hard for us to digest that stuff. When actually, though, you can tell this is substance. I should be feeding on this sort of stuff, this meat. I want to be a man like this. The review here says it's a masterclass in myth-making, in that it serves as a perfect bridge for anyone interested in Arthurian legends or Lord of the Rings, as Tolkien himself was deeply influenced by the same Northern European heroic traditions. You have real heroism here. That's something that you won't find in Hollywood hardly ever anymore. You don't find in most stories now. Most stories, the hero is actually the villain and the villain is the hero. Or not even the villain, just the underdog is the hero. Or the woman especially, we talked about this, the heroine today is often someone who hasn't had to try or struggle for anything. She has no principles. It's just a heroine. It's a hero. Accidental, clumsy.
Right, a hero without any actual greatness.
Yes. These people determine greatness in their mind and they achieve it. We don't like that story today because we like to think that those sorts of people are authoritarian personalities. They turn into oppressors and tyrants and bigots with prejudice, We like to have people who are careful and cautious and welcoming and tolerant. We're all very good liberals today in the classical philosophical sense. Like, we don't like this anymore. People who have ambition and go for it, but it's not evil. It's actually good. That's what this book is full of. And that's what the hero is. The heroic is someone like Aragorn. If you watch the movie, I love Lord of the Rings movie, by the way, but they do change things. In the movie, Aragorn is confused. He has to be encouraged and directed by Arwen several times.
He's hesitating.
He's hesitating. He's unsure of himself. I don't know. Now isn't the time. I'm not sure if I'm like my ancestors. And Arwen shows up several times, which doesn't happen in the book. She shows up and says, now is the time. You must go. You must believe in your, or whatever, in your destiny. And he's like, but perhaps I'm not ready. And she's like, you are. And he's like, okay, I'll try. I'm just making this up. Yeah. That's what happens in the movie. And when you read the book, that is not at all what happens. He is quiet and sure of himself the whole time, the entire time. He has a plan in the background, and he's unfolding it. He's making it happen.
He's even more sure of himself sometimes than everybody else is of him.
Yes.
Yeah, and he shows it and he proves it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a hero. Mm-hmm. He's a hero. Boromir, the same thing happens with Boromir. He's a great man. Mm-hmm. Think about it. When he dies, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli sing songs about him. That's how great he was. Now, when you read the story or watch the movie especially, you get the sense that he's not a great man, the movie. He's a man who, from the beginning, he has that curling lip like Ganelon did or something. He wants the ring right away. He doesn't understand. He lashes out. He questions things. He's breaking the whole time. He's despairing the whole time. And when he dies and Aragorn and the others sing this song over him, you're thinking, why are they singing a song about him like he's a great man? He wasn't a great man the whole time. Because they misportrayed him. In the book, he is portrayed as a great man, a hero. And yes, he committed an error, but that doesn't mean that he's always been a sinner. That's what happens in today's world. If you commit a sin, a specific sin though, the sin of trying to attain power in some way, if you commit that sin, and this could be authoritarian power, bigoted power, racist, if you were some kind of sin like this, you're not forget. Like, you can commit adultery today. You can commit murder even, and people will just, oh, you know what? He was disadvantaged. Let's let him back out on the streets. You know, we don't know what happened in his life. But if you commit one of these other sins, people won't just say that you did wrong. They will say that you were always like this. You've always been wicked in your soul. You've always been a curled lip traitor, treacherous coward, scheming, plotting. There's no redemption from some sins today. Mm-hmm. Boromir, they gave him that kind of thing. And the only way to redeem Aragorn today is to make him hesitant and doubtful. Because if he's a hero and he's a really great man, you got guys who have destiny in their eye. That sounds like Nazi stuff, man. You know, mm-hmm. Destiny and highborn. You know what I mean? The Dunedain from the north. Oh, what are you trying to say, Tolkien? You know, the True Bloods. I mean, you got people who are proud. And rightly so. We can't have that today. That's what happens in this book, though. Baldwin's book. Roland is highborn. Charlemagne is highborn. And so are some Muslims, and so are some women. It's all over, by the way. In every direction is what I mean. But it doesn't turn necessarily into the myth of the 20th century. The myth of the 20th century is that every single bad guy ever is Hitler. And every single good guy ever is Churchill. And those are the only two character arcs that you are allowed to put every character in human history into, including Jesus, including Superman, including your mom, your dad. Everybody ever goes into those two. They're one of the two.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's exactly right. If that's the case, then God Almighty is the most wicked being in the universe. He's almighty. He's the omnipotent, therefore he is the omni-evil.
Yeah, that's an insidious.
It's insidious.
Yeah.
Who would tell you that? Who would whisper that in your ear? Except someone who wanted you to think ill of power. Mm-hmm. Satan. This book flips that and goes back to a better moral universe. I think it should be given to young boys. My girls loved it. Give it to girls too. There's lots of girls in this. Bradamante is a really strong warrioress in this book. If you're wanting girl power, it's there. But she also falls in love with a guy who's stronger than her, and they go and get married, and they give birth to the great house Ippolito d'Este. Anyway, the book is great. It's wonderful. Some people criticize the end by calling Roland proud and stubborn. It wasn't pride. It was honor and principle. It was courage and great-heartedness that made him do what he did. And he's not criticized for it in the book. He's praised for it. And there's a song about him called the Song of Roland that basically is a national epic for France and all of Christendom. This book is extremely Christian also, by the way. And yet at the same time, it doesn't just dismiss Muslims as these beast savages, idiots. It doesn't do that. You can actually have pride in being European, in being French or American or Christian, and at the same time not despise others. This book shows that. It's a great book all around.